So there's many things you can do with the eggplant or the garlic, using it in a pasta. Is a wonderful way to use confit of eggplant. Garnishing any proteins, pureeing it is also an option. You can puree it. Just drizzle a little bit of our So I'll just show you the difference in viscosity. You can see how syrupy that one is. This one's gonna be much more liquid. See? I've been so excited sharing with you all of the different techniques that we've been using to cook vegetables. Vegetables are just such a dynamic food group, one that I just adore. Texturally, color, seasonality, flavor, and the transformation that goes on when we cook different vegetables. We're going to do a confit of Chinese eggplant. A confit is something that is cooked in fat, or in this case, in oil. The most famous confit that we all recognize is confit de canard, or duck confit. And this was a method that they used in France to preserve duck legs. They would salt their duck legs to cure them, then remove the salt, remove them from the salt, place them in a cooking vessel, much like this stove, cover it with duck fat, and then cook it at a very low temperature for a long period of time. Then they would take that and they'd put that in a crockery and they would have that preserved, and they would eat that duck confit throughout the winter. So it was, again, a way of preserving protein or preserving food to be eaten later on. So we're just gonna take off our bottoms and our tops here. We're gonna cut this in half, and then we're gonna treat it the same way we treated our zucchini. We're gonna score it, and we're going to salt it. The salting of an eggplant not only removes the moisture from it, but the moisture that you're removing is a little bitter, so it helps us sweeten up our eggplant by removing that bitter water that is associated with eggplant. I like using Chinese eggplant because the skin is so thin. So again, here we go. Other vegetables that we can confit, mushrooms are good to confit, so we do a mushroom conserva. And it's an Italian version of the same thing, where we cook our mushrooms for a long period of time and are able to conserve them in fat. So we're going to do the scoring it the same way. This again allows us to get that salt to penetrate down into the flesh. Also allows that moisture to rise to the surface easier and quicker. Again, as we saw with our zucchini, when we pan roasted our zucchini, they came out very creamy, very succulent, very almost pudding-like. And this will be the same thing that happens to our eggplant. You'll get that same textural effect with it, that same creaminess, that wonderful mouthfeel, and of course the beautiful flavor that's going to be associated with this eggplant, because we're going to also confit some garlic with it. So we'll have two vegetables here to work with, confit of garlic and confit of eggplant. Now the garlic can be used in a number of different ways as well. You can puree it and actually finish sauces with it. You can finish soups with it. You can add it to sauteed spinach. I mean, there's so many things you can do with a confit of garlic, both whole and puree. When you confit garlic, it becomes very sweet. So again, you lose that sharpness that we're associated with raw garlic. Now you may ask why I took the stem off and the tail off. It's because those have a lot of bitterness to them, especially the stem. So we don't want to do that. We didn't do that with the zucchini, but we've done that with the eggplant. The extremities are the most bitter part of the vegetable. So we finished scoring our eggplant. Now we're going to liberally salt that. Okay, so to help to extract that liquid, that water that we want to remove. Doing two things, making it sweeter actually, removing that bitter flavor that eggplant has, and also making it denser. So when you cook it, it's a lot meatier. Okay, so we're just going to turn that over so that moisture comes out, it leaches out, it's going to leach out onto our paper towel, and we'll let that sit for 20-25 minutes. You can see here what we've accomplished by allowing that moisture to come out. Okay, so once that's done, we're going to place them in our baking dish. We're going to add our garlic, our peeled garlic cloves. And then we're going to add our bouquet garni in much the same way, the flavor profiles that we have in our bouquet garni, which we did with our artichokes. We have thyme, we have parsley stem in there. Some of the other things that we love to confit are, so we talked about the eggplant, of course. We talked about mushrooms. We love to confit onions in the same way, cooking them in fat. We love to confit potatoes. We'll cut potatoes in beautiful discs and cook them in clarified butter, another form of fat for confit. And we have our oil here at 250 degrees. We're going to go ahead and ladle that over our eggplant. Okay. It's not enough to really blister the eggplant yet, so we want to cook it very slowly. We just want to start that oil on top of the stove, and of course, you know, if you have a thermometer, you want to be able to use that thermometer. It's going to take a good amount of oil. Again, we're using canola oil here. Now it's going to shrink as it begins to cook in the oven. Okay. Okay, so now I'm ready to take this over to the oven. Our oven is at 300 degrees. Okay. Sit that there for a moment. There we go. So our eggplant's finished. We're going to go over to our oven and get it. It's been there for about an hour. When you open that door and the aromas coming off of there are extraordinary. The garlic, the thyme. This is now finished. It's preserved. We can take it and put it in a container and store it in the refrigerator for several weeks. It's not going to really move. The garlic, the same thing. Or we can really enjoy it right now. So we're going to take our eggplant out, and you see how cooked that is. Just beautifully well done. And you can feel the creaminess of eggplant. And I'm sure all of you have experienced that creamy eggplant that you've had, and maybe in some Asian restaurants or some Italian restaurants. This is really quite extraordinary in the texture. Which texture is such an important part of what we're doing with vegetables. So the oil, because it's never reached its flash point, it can be reused. You can strain it. It does have some flavor from the garlic and from the eggplant, probably a little bit of salt in it as well. But you can use it as a oil for your vinaigrettes, or you can use it as an oil also for sautéing. Not that it's going to impart a lot of flavor in anything that you sauté, but you don't want to necessarily throw the oil out. Okay. Storing our confit, when you store confit like we spoke about duck confit, you always want to store it in the oil. Okay. The preservation process is being stored in its fat. In this case, in oil. The garlic also, I mean, you could just confit garlic. It is such a wonderful condiment to have available for almost anything. Just pureeing it or just smashing it on toast with some fresh tomato is a wonderful way of using confit garlic. It is so creamy, so beautiful in texture. You can just feel the creamy quality of the eggplant coming through there. I'm gonna garnish this with some balsamic vinegar. We have 2 balsamic vinegars here. One is a true balsamic vinegar made with the grape must. The other one is this is a 12-year-old balsamic vinegar, by the way. The other one is a commercially prepared balsamic vinegar, although it is classified by the Italian government, but it has other vinegars in it, not just the grape must vinegar that's associated with balsamic vinegar. It has other vinegars in it. It's a wonderful vinegar to use. It's certainly from a cost point of view a lot less expensive than a 12-year-old, but it's not a true balsamic vinegar. This is really, the aromas that are coming off of here are really making me quite hungry. And then just some garlic cloves. So there's many things you can do with the eggplant or the garlic, using it in a pasta. Is a wonderful way to use confit of eggplant. Garnishing any proteins, pureeing it is also an option. You can puree it. Just drizzle a little bit of our So I'll just show you the difference in viscosity. You can see how syrupy that one is. This one's going to be much more liquid. See? Just depends on what you want to use it for, a vinaigrette, or using it just as a garnish for a dish like the eggplant. I'll take a little bit of oregano leaf here to finish it with. And again, the aroma of the oregano is just so prevalent in this. As soon as it hits that eggplant, which is warm, you get these perfumes off of this dish, which is just extraordinary. There we go. Confit of eggplant with confit of garlic, balsamic vinegar, and fresh garden oregano. Good. We'll get the confit. That'll help accelerate the process a little bit. But again, if you have time, you're doing your mise en place, get this done a half an hour, 45 minutes before you need it, and then